Good morning, everyone. It's just about 15 minutes past the hour here in the studios of WNFM 98.9, and welcome to Money Matters. With me this morning, I have Mr. Tally Francis. He's going to introduce himself and tell you all about the program that we have lined up for you today. And hopefully you can learn some tips on how to save some money. All right, so let's jump right into it. Good morning, Mr. Francis.
Good morning, Sharon. Nice to be with you this morning.
Yes, and for those who are regular listeners of WinFM, they probably recognize your voice. So he's no stranger to us here.
Yes, indeed. We would be on morning devotions at least once per month for 5 days.
Yes. All right. So you are here to help us with some money issues, and thank you so much because it's a little bit trying out there these days. Yes. What we're talking about this morning is how to set up your spending budget right for savings, even on a small budget.
Yes.
All right. Before we actually jump into it, you want to give a little background as to your area of expertise in terms of money?
Expertise. So, Tally Francis, I've been in finance for quite some time. I've been a stockbroker. I work with the Eastern Caribbean Securities Exchange, ECSE. And from there, I took early retirement in 2020. Yes, in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. But I took early retirement in 2020. And since then, I've been mostly helping persons with financial literacy. I do a lot of webinars and also coaching, personal finance coaching and consulting where I'm asked to. But this program, a financial literacy program, is something I've been wanting to do here in the Federation for quite some time. I have done it in other islands before. In fact, up to last year, we had a full half year of program on the network in Grenada. So I'm very glad that we can be here, and it's financial literacy. It's a public awareness program, and it's for the benefit of all of us, not just for others, but me too.
All right, so let's jump right into it. So we're talking about budgeting. And for a lot of people, they're like, I don't even want to touch that, really. Why do most people find it so difficult to manage their money properly?
Right. Well, money management is something you rightly say. We did not really grow up in the schools, in the formal education system, and in many of our homes. We did not grow up with any learning, any even role models, any indication how to treat and handle your money. Although from childhood, we are involved with money. From childhood, we are actually spending money, even though it's money to buy the brick or the lunch or to spend when we go to the sports or the games. But what it is that gives us so much difficulty in handling our money is that money management has to do with not just learning what you have to do. It's not only education. It's also about attitude and about behavior. So it all boils down to our money attitude, our money behavior, our habits when we are using money. Money is a thing that has a brain on its own, so to speak. If you don't take control of your money, then your money takes control of you. And when it takes control of you, it actually sends you broke. And so I think that perhaps might be the biggest reason why we have so much problems with handling money. The using of the wrong attitude, the wrong habits in treating with money leads us to not be able to handle it successfully.
Okay, well, there's some people, like I said earlier, who don't even want to think about the word budget, but because they think it's so hard to do. Is it really that hard, though?
Well, let's say it's difficult if you come to it with the attitude of that it's hard. Some people think that budgeting is having to do with economics and mathematics and trigonometry and all that. And this is a problem. If you start from that point of view, it means that you are not really approaching the handling of money with the ease with which money needs to be handled. And so how you set up your money is really the way to get in to handle it well. It's to make it easy, you have to set it up right. If you don't set it up right, then it would not be easy, it would be very difficult. And if you focus on additions and subtractions and a particular way of putting it out more than on what it should be, the income I'm receiving, what am I going to do with that? Then you will find it difficult. And you're correct, some people they have a low income and they feel that they shouldn't budget because I don't have money to budget. Some people, they feel they're very young, so I could bother with that later. No, I want to bother with that now. You have other persons who feel they're too old, so I'm already an old person. Why is it that I have to bother with budget? In any case, I've been getting along. Rich people also, a lot of persons who have very good income fail to budget because they're getting by. So it's only when the crunch comes down, they are now being controlled by money or the lack thereof because they had not allocated well in the beginning. And so that really is, it's what you have to guard against. And that is the reason why financial literacy has become something that I passionately work on disseminating, to the best that we can to help people take the best approach rather than have to suffer from the consequences of just going by just day by day spending as you may.
All right. And of course, with a budget, you actually have to be very strict with yourself in terms of your spending and make sure you adhere to it. And it sounds easy hearing you talk about it, but why is it so hard to make a budget, stick to it, and save money?
Right. Again, because perhaps 90% of budgeting properly, 90% of planning how you spend your money properly, 90% of actually staying the course and spending your money to your present day benefit and to your future benefit, 90% has to do with your mindset. 90% has to do with your attitude. Only 10% has to do with, really knowing how to add 2 and 2 because we know that anyway. Only 10% has to do with learning. Only 10% would have to do with what I can even teach anyone about budgeting. Because even if you know, but then you don't have the correct attitude, you go in some bad money habit actions over time, then what would be happening is that whatever you prepared as a budget is useless. It doesn't serve you because what you are doing is, in fact, is not discipline. So discipline, self-discipline in money management is extremely important.
I know.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you actually, say, I'm going to do this, and, it never happens.
Yes. If you were to think about it, the more money someone has is the more money they can spend badly if they have bad habit on spending money. The less money that you have, it's true that you don't have plenty money, but depending on how you use the money, it will surprise you to know that a person who has an income, let's say, of $2,000 may end up having a bigger saving in 5 to 10 years than a person who has an income of, say, $10,000. The person who has an income of $10,000, maybe, splashing, traveling, have a huge expensive vehicle it doesn't need to have or something like that, and the person who has $2,000 might be every single month putting aside a portion of the money and living off less than $2,000 so that 10 years from today, they would have a savings. 10 years from today, you might be surprised that the $10,000 per month person today is actually looking for help in order to get by.
True. So with budgets, so probably people won't actually know about how to even get started. Are there different types of budgets that, we have to, because I only really think I know about one. Are there different types?
Yes, there are just many, many, many. Let me mention a few. There is one type of budget which is called percentage budgeting. In that type of budget process, what you do is that you take your income and you allocate it to different categories of spending. So you will determine beforehand which categories that you would spend on, and you will divide your income among them. So one such example would be the 50, 30, 20 rule, and perhaps I can speak a little bit about that later on. There is also a 70, 10, 10 rule. Every time you hear these numbers, it is saying 50% of your income you will allocate to something, 30% you will allocate to another thing until you get to 100, 70, 10, 10. So you have different persons who have promoted different percentage-based budgeting. So you might decide that what is important for you are these 10 things, and you're going to spend X% of your income on that. And so that is what percentage-based budgeting is. So you also have the other type of budgeting. That might be the one that you're very familiar with, which is the envelope, the cash envelope budgeting. Well, the cash envelope budgeting is one that it served our parents and our grandparents well before you had all this automation and things like that, and digital monies and so on. What that one is where you get your salary, you get your payday, the old days of paycheck, you convert that into cash, and then you use envelopes now, literally use envelopes, and you put the cash for electricity in one envelope, the cash for water in another envelope, the cash for groceries, you put that in another envelope. So what you do in there is that you divided up the money that you have earned, the income that you've earned. For the next month, you're going to use this, and you're going to use, let's say, all that you put in this envelope for groceries on groceries. All that you put in this for electricity on electricity. And so what that cash envelope system does is that it helps you to not go out with the money in your pocket, use it where you're not supposed to because you're using the envelope system to control. So that's another type of budget process that could be used. That one is fairly easy because you don't need any spreadsheets or tables, you don't need pen and paper and so on. Right? So you have that type of budgeting as well. You also have the type of budgeting which is called the zero-based budgeting. You find a lot of the young people, a lot of even the professionals who have some experience, some knowledge, and they're comfortable with dealing with like spreadsheets and Excel sheets and so on and pen and paper. They do that. The zero budgeting process is this a type where you take your income and you say every month my income minus all my expenses should be equal to zero. So that's a zero-based budgeting. And so what you do is you actually sit down and you write down all that you're going to spend on. You add it up. If it is more than what your income is, it means that your income minus your expenses leaving you in a deficit with a minus figure. So you take out expenses until you get back to the zero. So if you decide, well, I'm going to going to the cinema every weekend, that money goes out. So you keep taking out until I'm going to take out this brand name thing, or I'm going to take out this 3 times to this fish and chip lunch or dinner, so, things like that. So you keep taking out until your budget is the income you get, the salary minus your expenses equals to zero. That's another type of budgeting. There's another process which is called value-based. In the value-based budgeting, what the person does is that you now go and you say, I have 3 important things in my life right now. One is to save for retirement. The other is to save for a down payment on my house. And the third is to put aside money for my now 10-year-old child to go to college in 15 or 10 years or so, 5, 6 years. And you, first of all, every money you get, every income you get, you take out for that value because that's what is of high value to you. And then the rest of the money, let's suppose you earn $3,000 a month, and all what I just mentioned, which is important to you, comes up to $1,000. It means that $1,000 you put that aside, and you are going to live off of $2,000 for the rest of the month. So that's value-based budgeting. That's another process for budgeting. So I'm explaining these in that way to show you that when we think about budgeting as individuals with very low financial literacy, very low money management habits and so on, we think about writing down figures and sitting down, and if we are married, trying to quarrel with the spouse, what to spend on, what not to spend. No, it's not bound to be that complicated. So we don't need the high science to answer your question. So we have those types of budgeting that, and there are several more, but the thing is, that these are options, and I think, we've just counted a few.
Yeah, I think we could successfully rule out the envelope one because I don't know if that would actually work now. We could use the others, but I don't think that one works at all. At least that's not the one I use. All right, so you listed about 3 or 4 of them, I think, and you said there are more, so we're going to look forward to you telling us about the other types of budgeting at some point. Okay, should people choose a type of budget based on their lifestyle, or should their lifestyle be based on their budget? Now, that's an important question.
That's a very important question, and it's important to clarify it as well, because that is one of the reasons why people run away from budgeting. Because apart from the incorrect thought that budgeting is complicated, there is also the thought that if you budget in, you have to sacrifice. So the idea is that...
Yes, I would say that, yes.
Yes, that budgeting is all about sacrifice. But budgeting is not all about sacrifice. And the budget is really a tool. It's a tool to help us plan and to tell our income what it will be going towards. If you don't tell your money where it should go, that
Will
money,
disappear?
it has a way of just going where it wants. Can you imagine that you're going into the store and you have let's say $45 in your pocket, or you know that on your card you want to spend $45 for what you go to town for today. $10 is on one thing and the other rest of the money is on another thing. But you went into the store and you see a $10 thing that used to be $10, it is now on sale. Buy one, get one free, or a package is there in a bundle, and they tell you $25, you get all of this. Immediately you go on into your mind, but this is a deal. This is a deal. So you're ready to spend it.
It's a deal, though. It is a deal.
And you're ready to spend it. But is it a deal for your ability to spend? Is it a deal for your financial ability? Is it a deal for your income? It might be a deal for a person who has an extra $15 to spend on his different, in that month. But it may not be for you. So if you had actually planned your spending, it means that you don't have room and luxury to be spending because X company that you walk into there now have a deal and you didn't know that before. No, because if you do that, then you have to go back home and you have to say, well, this extra money I spent on that wasn't meant for that. Where am I going to take it from to make sure that I don't go into a deficit? I don't spend more than I earn this month. Because the alternative to doing that is to borrowing money to cover all your expenses this month because you spent on somebody else's deal that you didn't cater for, you see?
But we have all fallen guilty of that at a time or two because, I can personally say I went in to buy something for $10.
Yes.
I ended up spending $220.
What?
Yeah, yes.
That's a big gap, but it's
Well,
true, yes.
I was like, I cannot believe I have all these other things. And then I went up to the cashier, and even though the price came up, I'm like, I still am going to get them. And in the back of my mind, it was my fault because I didn't have a plan. I went in to buy one thing, yes. I may have been able to afford one other thing, but then it went totally overboard when I did what I did. So
yeah, but this is like the guy who goes into the car lot, right? He wants to buy a new car. Mm-hmm. He knows what he can afford. He has already spoken with the bank, for example, what would be the deposit and things like that. So he knows what he's going to buy. Huh? Well, we have another episode later on. We'll talk about how to save money when you're buying cars, right? So we have a lot of opinion on that later on, and to give the best ways and best tips. But for the moment, for this example, he goes into the lot. So when he's there, the car salesman convinces him that this other car, which costs more, is better for him, better for his status, better for that. Look who other person bought that one, and so on. So he leaves there wanting to buy the more expensive car. So what does he do? He go back home. He called up the auntie or the godmother to get extra money to be able to buy that. What has he done? He has actually sabotaged his plan. And car loans is about 3-5 years and so on. Mm-hmm. He has sabotaged 5 years of what he will be doing with his income because he went and he did something that he really did not plan. He or she, by the way.
Yeah.
And it happens to whole families as well, Some of us, me and my spouse, we really prefer to be in this elegant car because down the road or at the office, Compare and McMahon has bought, something of another standard. Mm-hmm. Why should I be driving around in this? So we look at comparisons and so on. But to answer your original question, though, which budget is best and so on, each person and each family should choose not only the budget, perhaps the combination of budget processes that would be best suited to you and to your lifestyle. But it is not that you should have a lifestyle budget conflict. What should happen is that you should budget based on your income. The most powerful weapon we have, the most powerful tool we have for building wealth, protecting our family tomorrow, and saving for the future is our income. If you don't protect how you use your income, then all you're doing is preparing to sabotage yourself down the road. And so what's best suits your lifestyle, and if your income cannot afford a certain lifestyle that requires you to spend more than what you have and can budget, then tailor your budget back to your lifestyle. In fact, most financial advisors, most financial literacy people will tell you, live beneath your means, rather than above your means.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. A
Yes.
really good idea.
Sure.
All right. So, so you were saying that the breakdown for one of the budget styles is
Yes.
50, 30,
30,
and 20.
yes.
Okay, so for beginner, sometimes 50% of the income goes to needs, and then you have your wants. What would you say falls into the needs category?
Right. So just a little anecdote, this process of method of budgeting, 50, 30, 20, that was made popular by the American, she's a former presidential candidate, Elizabeth Warren. She has a book called All Your Worth, and it looks at ways in which people from the lower income and middle income brackets can prepare themselves for a healthy lifestyle and a wealthy future lifestyle as well. So what she proposed in that book is this 50, 30, 20. And the 50 is on needs, the 30% is on your wants or your desires, and your 20% is on debt and savings. She proposed and she says, if you use that approach to budgeting, then it means that you will be able to attain a wealthy life, a wealth building life over time for yourself and your family. She wrote that book together with her daughter, by the way. And so in the needs, first of all, what are needs? Needs are things that you absolutely can't do without. So they are the essential things. And for us, from the practical point of view, we now begin to think of things like your rent, because you need shelter.
Somewhere to live.
Or if you took a loan, you have a mortgage, it means your mortgage payment. That's a need. That goes into the 50%. Then you look at food, basic food, and we will speak sometime on how to save when you buying groceries, how
That
to
would
save
be a
on
good
food
idea
shopping and
because-
so. Yes. And so food will fall into there as well. Basic clothing, not the fancy clothes or the duplicate or the second hat or the second, blouse and so on. Not the second fancy shoe or the 24th shoe and so on, but your basic clothing, both for home and as well as for casual and especially for work situation, because it's at work that you receive your income. So those fall into the needs and so. So needs are really the essentials, things that if you do not have them, you would be greatly, greatly inconvenienced. Right?
Okay.
And I'm sure, we can, our listeners and viewers can, come up with what are needs for them. Yeah?
Okay, so for the wants, what would the wants be?
Right. So the wants are things that you like, things that you would wish to have, things that you will feel good when you buy, or when you use, but they're not absolutely essential. They're not absolutely necessary. So what this process, this method of budget is saying, if your income is X, spend only 30% of that on things that are like your leisure. So wants are things like your hobby, right? Things like your hobbies. Some people like to golf, some people play extra tennis, some people like cycling, so they spend a lot on, gears and so on. Some people like, pets and so on, so they spend a lot on more than one or two different pets in the house and so. So there are things like that. Eating out. There is a difference between eating out every day for lunch when you go to work and actually preparing some days of the week your lunch at home. Financially, there's a great savings if you were to prepare your lunch and go out. So things like that are your desires, your things that you wish for. These do not include things like, for example, taking education or courses and so on, because when you invest in yourself, that's different. So we're speaking here about things that you like, but you don't absolutely need. Those are your wants.
Okay, and so the 20% is then all for savings, or?
Yes. Now, if you have debt, the first place the 20% goes is on paying off debt. Whether it is a credit card debt, whether it's a car loan, or your mortgage, or your commercial. Even some people take hire purchase goods, and paying on a layaway and hire purchase is actually paying an obligation. So you pay that. You make sure that you do not allow yourself to have to be paid more than 20% of your income on debt. That's extremely important. I know that banks and a lot of financial institutions give you up to 35%, sometimes 40% of your salary as debt servicing. But for efficient, effective, and good money management, your credit card, your mortgage, your car loan should not really come up to more than 20% of your income. If it does, your chances of growing wealth in the medium term even, not just the short term, in the medium term, your chances are very slim. And so your money attitude must include an attitude which says, I will not put myself in debt to more than X or Y%. In the case of this way of budgeting, it says more than 20%.
Okay, so for someone who's never budgeted, how do they take the first step?
Right. I like to talk about the first step in terms of time. Start now. Start right now. Start today when we finish this program. Start this evening when you go home. Start now. Start by thinking about the things that are essential, that are absolutely necessary in your life, and see whether you are spending X or Y% of your income on that. Now, for people with very small, low income, they might be already spending 90% of their salary or their wages on essentials, on their needs. This may not be the budgeting process for that person. For some persons, they might have already incurred themselves individually or as a family a big debt portfolio. They might have already run up a set of credit cards and so on. We will speak about in this literacy program, we'll be speaking about how to control credit card debt and so on sometime in the future. But that person would not be able to meet a 50, 30, 20 process of budgeting. But start with that attitude, that approach to see whether, how am I performing now in terms of where I'm spending my money? And where would I best be able to make changes? When there's an important thing about writing things down, or at least even if you put it on your phone and you start to, because the phone does a lot for us these days.
Yeah, they have the calculator there.
That's
you could do
right.
everything.
But not only that, Sharon, some of the banks now also have online spreadsheets, calculators, and guides to help us plan in the budget. So we are better off than granny and even mommy and daddy in terms of the facilities we have for budgeting. That's why I said at the beginning, it all boils down to the attitude, the will and the discipline ourselves to really be part of the decision maker in our lives, rather than it to be who we compare ourselves with, and it to be our money itself dictating, and it to be the stores and the shops sales offers telling us where the money should go.
Yeah. What about those persons who work or get paid, I should say, every 2 weeks or weekly? How does that work out in terms of them budgeting as well?
Yes, that's another important question and good clarification to be made as well. One of the reasons why people who work fortnightly wages or monthly or even job labor don't budget is because it's like hand to mouth. Every time you get it, you have to use it. Mm-hmm. But in the same way as your income comes, it goes. In the same way as it goes, you could either plan it to go or you could not plan it to go. So what it means is that, for example, if you are getting fortnightly wages, then you have to decide. So in the middle of the month, I'm going to pay my bills that came and has a 16-day cycle. I'm going to pay them like my telephone and so on. The cycle is every 16 days. Every 16th of the month I have to pay. I'm paying that from my first fortnight wage. Mm-hmm. And then I pay the electricity from the second fortnight wage. And that's how I keep going. So you have to plan that deliberately as well. You don't do what you have to do. So you do all the restaurant, you do all the liming, you do the strip and the here and there. And then at the end of the month, you are getting paid half of the month. And now you have the second half. You want to do everything that belongs to the whole month. That is poor planning. It's poor money management from the practical sense. And you will always be caught off guard by money. But if you catch yourself and you plan fortnightly, you can also save fortnightly, and you can enjoy your life rather than be sacrificing every time the money comes at the second round.
Yeah.
Even job, you're going on a job. Let's suppose I'm a plumber and I'm going on the job. This job I know will bring in X amount of money. I can plan already what I'm going to do with that. I don't have to wait until August or September to know that it is time to pay for my daughter's college entry. I don't have to wait for that. I can already in June say, well, of this job, 20% of it would be for the college education. So I know I save in that. And, sorry, honey, I know this job was a $2,000 job, but only $1,200 is available for us. So let's operate as though I only made $1,200. Where is the other $800? The other $800 is somewhere in the credit union, wherever I'm saving my money, hopefully not under the mattress or in the bank. And that is for September, because in September, I would not only need this $800, we cannot embarrass our daughter. We cannot fail our family. We need to add to that what we will be making in July, what we will be making in August, a little bit out of each one, so that in September and August, we will not be scrunting. We will not have to go to get some special 8% loan for sending our children back to school. We would have already planned and prepared and saved along the way.
All right, so we're basically at the end of the program. It was such a good program. I hope everybody learned from it, and it's going to be happening again next Wednesday. Yes, right here on 1FM.
That's right.
At 10:15 to 10:45. Thank you so much, Mr. Francis, for coming in and sharing. I'm hoping our listeners took a lot from the information. And next week we're going to talk about those budgets, the different types of budgets, yes?
Right. We can just try to run up a few examples and to get to concrete. What we can do also is to ask our listeners if they have questions, if they have areas they want us to focus on, they can send it in, post it also online, or send it in to you, and we will answer them as well next week.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank
See you
very
next
much.
week.
Same to you. Great.